G'day, Andrew Whitner here. Have you just bought a Leica M Typ240? When I bought mine, I couldn't believe how much more sophisticated it is compared to my old Leica M5 film camera, which I bought about 45 years ago, back in about 1975. Here's the M5. When it was introduced, it was the first Leica Rangefinder camera to feature built-in through-the-lens light metering, and that made it more complicated than previous M film Leicas. And it meant that it used a battery to power the metering system, and that its film speed setting dial actually linked through to it. Well, the new M Typ240 with its digital operation has more settings than you can actually think of and remember. And it's taken me a while to actually work out a useful way to set this camera for everyday reportage use in a black and white style. The camera uses two menu systems, one of them accessible over here on the left when you press the menu button, and the other one accessible over here on the right when you press Info and then Set. And in this right-hand menu you can save and select as many as 4 user profiles, which will remember and reinstate various pre-selected settings for you. Now, in the old days of film photography, you didn't have many choices when it came to setting a camera. Wind the film, select a shutter speed and an aperture, and then focus, frame, and take the picture. But today with the M240, you have the exciting option of also being able to set the sensor's ISO speed. And today I thought I'd share a profile setting with you that capitalises on this feature, whilst letting you creatively and easily shoot both black and white and colour pictures, both with and without the electronic viewfinder. I'll show you the profile setup, and then I'll show you how the camera works as a result. Now, to make sure that your settings correspond to mine, you should first reset your camera to its factory default in the left-hand menu. Then go through your left and right menus and make the changes shown in the next 3 screens. Where I haven't listed a setting, it means that you should just leave it as it is. With this profile setup, you'll be photographing and reviewing in black and white, but the camera will generate and save both a high-quality black and white JPEG as well as a raw DNG file, which can give you a full colour picture later at the computer. Now, having done all this and having saved the profile as DNG-BW, how does the camera operate? First of all, when I go to take a photograph, I switch the camera on to standard single-shot operation, so that the camera will only take a single picture while my finger is depressed on the shutter button. Next, I need to decide upon a shutter speed and an aperture for my shot, and set these at the shutter speed dial and at the lens. Then I focus the picture, either by looking through the viewfinder and using the rangefinder focusing, or by setting the focus directly at the lens barrel, and I then compose the image and take the shot. Now, here's the clever bit. The camera will produce the shot at these selected settings of aperture and shutter speed, and it will automatically select the correct ISO sensor sensitivity to ensure a correctly exposed image. And look what happens next. If I keep my finger depressed on the shutter button after taking the picture, the image is immediately shown in black and white for review on the rear screen, and it stays there for as long as my finger is held on the shutter button. Then, when I take my finger off the shutter button, the rear screen blacks out and I'm ready to take another shot. The black and white image shown on the rear screen is the best quality black and white JPEG generated and stored by the camera on the SD card, whilst a raw DNG file is also simultaneously generated and stored, which can give us the picture later on the computer in full colour. If the black and white previews appear consistently under or overexposed, you can adjust the camera's ISO bias at any time by lightly depressing the shutter button and turning the thumb wheel whilst viewing the f-stop modification display in the lower part of the viewfinder window. The bias will appear here briefly before you take each shot, and it won't negate the profile setting. Now, what happens if we add and use the electronic viewfinder? Or if we add it but don't actually use it? Once we attach the electronic viewfinder, the little button at the back of it effectively becomes the on-off switch for the entire camera. When I press it, it opens the camera shutter and gives me a live view in black and white inside the EVF for taking the photo. And if I keep my finger depressed on the shutter button after shooting, I see the black and white JPEG review inside the EVF, which then reverts to a live view again when I take my finger off the button, and now I'm ready to shoot again. But if I press the little button at the back of the electronic viewfinder instead, the shutter closes and the EVF switches off and blacks out, thus saving battery power. With the EVF switched off like this, if I then take another shot using just the range viewfinder window and keep my finger depressed on the shutter button after shooting, then the black and white review appears on the rear screen instead, and it switches off and blacks out when I take my finger off the button and I'm ready to photograph again. So the electronic viewfinder can stay on the camera whether you decide to use it or not. And look at this, if I press the play button, then the camera displays the already recorded black and white JPEGs on either the rear screen or inside the electronic viewfinder, with the little button at the back of the electronic viewfinder functioning as a toggle switch between the two viewing destinations. To switch off play mode in either screen, and thus black out either one of them, simply tap the shutter button lightly. So get shooting. The ability of the Leica M Typ240 to select its own ISO makes photography easier and more successful than ever. See you next time.